It's a beautiful day to just show up. Hi, everyone. Yvonne Heath here, nurse turned author, speaker, and changemaker, and host of Welcome to Navigating Grief with Heart and Humor, where we talk about, plan, and prepare for grief, transitions, and end of life long before they arrive and diffuse the fear so we can live fully now. Or at least that's what we try to do. Oftentimes, we have been through a crisis and realized how ill-prepared we were, and we're trying to do it differently next time. So whatever brought you here, thank you. And I just want to take a moment to just land and take a deep breath. I know that these subjects can be very challenging. I know that life is calling you to different places. And so I honor you for just showing up today and maybe wanting to learn something, to share something, maybe to do things a little bit differently. Because when it comes to grief and everything that surrounds grief and challenges and end of life, we have been a society for as long as I've been alive that would prefer to ignore grief and challenges until we are in crisis. And then we try to navigate through and we have no coping skills, no strategies. And so we need to do this differently if we want to avoid excessive suffering. You see, everything I am doing is about learning how to navigate this journey we call life with greater ease, with acceptance that life is unpredictable, prepare for anything, and change is the only constant, and that everything we are experiencing is temporary. Now, sometimes that is a good thing because we are experiencing challenges in life. And sometimes it's a disappointment because we are so happy with everything that is going on. But it is all temporary. Our lives are temporary, our relationships, everything. And so I am making a choice. I am making a choice to do this better and better, to connect with kindred spirits and like-minded individuals around the world so we can normalize conversations about grief, transitions, end of life, where we can create a foundation together so when they arrive, we know how to just show up for ourselves and each other. And a place where we can learn more and more about the goodness in life, because no matter what we are going through, there is something to be grateful for if we choose to see it and if we choose to allow it in. So, like talking about grief, the first thing I'd like to do in talking about gratitude and grief is define gratitude. We hear all the time, oh, we should be grateful and it's wonderful to be grateful. And yes, it is. But what is grief or what is gratitude? What do we mean by gratitude? And so, like everything, when we want to learn something, I Googled it. And I learned, it says gratitude, the quality of being thankful, readiness to show appreciation, and to return to kindness or to return kindness. Readiness to show appreciation, being thankful, a willingness to return kindness. Isn't that wonderful? And so diving deeper into how we can incorporate gratitude into our lives more and more and more. First thing we needed to do was define it. And then I'd love you to step back and think, am I a grateful person? Am I grateful for the things that are in my life, have been in my life, and maybe in the future? You know, sometimes, again, when we are ill prepared for grief, life challenges and transitions, when we get so stuck in our hard feelings, in our grief, and we just can't see the gratitude because we refuse to accept that change is the only constant. We refuse to accept that someone we love has died. And what that does is block our joy and block our ability to be grateful. So of course, incorporating gratitude more and more into your life, can you think of things that you have been through in your life that you haven't quite resolved? You haven't resolved the grief, the anger, the bitterness. And so you are not able to feel that gratefulness. I think that's a good place to start, isn't it? And I can tell you, I will confess, I will confess right now that I have been challenged with some things in my life of letting go and moving on and maybe forgiving, so that I'm not able to allow gratitude. And I am a work in progress, like we all are. And so when I think back, I will share one of the hardest, most challenging times of my life. Well, two. Number one, September 16th, 1996. Yep, I remember the day. And that's the day that I moved to back home, where I had been living down south in Texas, actually. And I remember distinctly saying to my mom on the phone, "Mom, you might as well accept that I will never live where there's snow again." I kind of loved not living in snow and shoveling and all the things that snow brings. And what did I do in 1996? I moved back home to Canada with my 2.5-year-old, divorced, broke, and broken. Divorced, broke, and broken. And I moved home. And I just remember sitting in that dark, dark time, and I couldn't get a job as a nurse. The hospital wasn't hiring. And I just remember sitting there and thinking, what happened to my life? I did not choose this. I don't deserve this. I kind of had a pity party. I felt ashamed. I felt embarrassed. And I let all of these hard emotions consume me. And, you know, as I think back, and the things that I would have loved to have told myself or known then, what I know now, I tried to bury my hard feelings, sometimes with too many drinks. I tried to be I was very busy. I was a single parent. I was very busy and I didn't want to think of those hard feelings. And I was hard on myself. And I saw myself as a failure. I failed at a marriage. I failed as a provider. I failed as a parent. I felt all these hard emotions. And, you know, if that happened to me today, I wish, I would hope that I have created enough coping skills, strategies, and a soft landing to be more gentle with myself, to be more tolerant of the things that I saw as mistakes, because I was a loving person and I did deserve, as everyone deserves, joy in life. And I wish I knew then what I know now, and saying this situation is temporary, and honor myself for leaving a relationship that was no longer serving me well, where I wasn't able to celebrate my weird self, my quirky self, where I was not authentic. And so to have the courage to become a single parent, to have the courage to move back home and live in a town with, you know, my 2.5-year-old son, and say, yeah, I'm divorced. Nope, can't find a job. Yeah, I'm living with my parents at age 31. I would love to go back. And I tell my 31-year-old self, you know what? Good for you for taking that road. Good for you for having the strength, and good for you for holding your head up high. That's what I would tell myself. And I would remind myself and allow my grief, that it's okay to grieve. It's okay to have hard feelings. Of course, what you're going through is really sad. And I know that I am not the only one. And I would tell my 31-year-old self, what you are going through is temporary, and you never know what awaits on the other side of grief. You never know what awaits on the other side of grief. Do you think in that hard moment I felt gratitude? No, not really. And yet there were things all around me to be grateful for. You see, I now have the habit, and I have for many, many years, to find the gratitude every single day. I name 10 things that I am grateful for every day, because it is in those hardest times that I realize that gratitude would have helped to create that soft landing. Think about it. In that time, age 31, where I felt broke and broken and alone, there were so many things to be grateful for. I left a relationship, and I promise you, it is better to be divorced and be a single parent than to be in an unhappy relationship. How wonderful. I am so grateful for that. Grateful for this 2.5-year-old little man named Tyler, who was my son and who was my anchor. He made me a mom, and he made me want to be a better person. And so no matter what, I had this loving little man, even though he was confused and you know, we had our challenges. I had my beautiful son. And number 3, I had my parents who opened their doors, who invited me to come back home with my 31-year-old without a vehicle or a job or anything else. I had a place to go. I had a place to go. I had a home. And there were other things that I was grateful for. I lived in Canada. What a beautiful country. And you know, there are so many things actually that we forget, that we take for granted. In that time, I had my health. I was healthy. I could see, I could hear, I could walk, I could talk. I had my 5 senses. I had beauty all around me. I live in a country where there's no war. There's so many things to be grateful for. And on those hard days, when you just can't see it all, that's where my gratitude journal comes in handy, because I write things in here every single day. And on those days where I feel so broken that it's hard to even think about, or back as I was moving on forward with my journey, I could read, when I started doing this, I could read these things in my hardest days, on my hardest days, in my sadness. So I acknowledge and allow my sadness. And I have now made it a practice. I practice gratitude. So you see, it's like anything, right? Like I say, if we want to get good at grief, we need to practice, we need to talk about, we need to plan, we need to prepare. So I want to move beyond just being grateful for the good things in my life. I want to make it a practice and a habit. I want to see the things that are serving me, see the things that are helping me to grow, right? Sometimes grief just cracks us open. And sometimes grief, when you look back at those hard times, they make you, because they're only temporary, however long they may be, they're temporary. So they can bring a level of gratitude that you would have never known if you hadn't experienced those hard times. So I think about in 2003, when I moved home and I finally got a job at the hospital, and I was beyond grateful because I didn't have a job. Well, I did get a job actually, and I drove an hour away to make 1/4 of what I made as a nurse. And the man said to me, "You are too qualified for this." And I said, Any amount of money per hour is better than no amount per hour. So please hire me. And I drove an hour away just to work. And when I got hired at that hospital in 97, I was more grateful than you could possibly imagine for that job. Then I started innocently flirting with a cute paramedic a few years later, and I eventually married him in 2003. And, you know, I would not settle for anything less than what I wanted in my life. I wanted someone because I started to love myself more, right? And I started to be very grateful for what was in my life. Without a partner, I felt, you know what? I can be a single mom. I'm a nurse. I have all of this. I am grateful. So should I be a single mom forever? That's okay. So you see, the more grateful I became in my life, the more things I attracted to be grateful for. And one of those things was a man named Jordy. And we married in 2003. And, you know, I think back to 1996, I could have never possibly imagined that in this small town in Huntsville, Ontario, in Canada, that I would meet the love of my life, my soulmate. And in January 2022, we will celebrate 20 years of being together. How grateful I am for this man. I feel this every single day. We're not perfect. I mean, come on now. However, it's pretty close. I think back to that time, that dark, dark time, and I am beyond grateful. So there is a level of gratitude that I would have never felt if I hadn't experienced that. And we don't all have to experience crisis and trauma and tragedies to feel gratitude. And yet when they do arrive uninvited, when grief arrives uninvited, not announced, not welcome, just remember that this is temporary. And when you are on the other side of it, you may feel a tremendous gratitude simply because it's over, simply because you got to the other side. And you never know what awaits on the other side of grief. I share that I have a wonderful friend, Patch Adams, who many of you have seen the movie. Robin Williams starred as Patch in his life, in his early life. And I, as a nurse, that collage back there, I became like the Canadian Patch Adams. Patch brings heart and humor. Everywhere he goes, he makes people laugh. He has worn clown, funny, silly clothes for the last 50 years. And Patch, we were in one of our wonderful conversations, he said that I live in gratitude. It is one of my huge and very important medicines. I live in gratitude. It is one of my huge and very important medicines. Think about that. Patch Adams has traveled around the world, been at the deathbed of more than 10,000 people, bringing them joy and humor and gratitude. In those moments, he is grateful to be able to just show up. Everything that he has been through, he lives gratitude every single day. He even, most recently in 2020, he had a below knee amputation. People don't even know this. Why? Because he continues to share his message and he says he is grateful to no longer have pain in his foot. Imagine if we all got to that place, right? No matter where we were, what we were going through, what we were experiencing. Think about it. If we could know that no matter what, there is something to be grateful for. Living in gratitude will change your life. Practicing gratitude being very intentional about noticing the things to be grateful for will enhance your life in ways you never thought possible. On those hard days, when I'm really struggling, I have actually named 10 things that I am grateful for as I am crying through my tears. Because on those dark days, and I've had them, on those dark days, such as the other hardest time in my life, darkest time that I've shared many times, when our son went down a very dangerous road of drugs and addiction, our older son, that very son that I was a single mom with, we had many struggles. And when he had tremendous grief in his life, drugs, alcohol became his crutch. And there was tremendous grief in that. And I knew that if I did not find a way to empower myself, if I did not change, if I did not create coping skills and strategies and a belief about life and death, that I could also be consumed by everything that was going on around us. And that the fact that I could not control my son or his journey. And so thinking back again to that hard time, I am so grateful for all the lessons I learned, because that truly is what catapulted me to change my life and to teach people how to just show up no matter what. Because in that time, many people avoided me. Because when you don't know what to do, you don't know what to say, we often avoid, afraid to do or say the wrong thing. And so in that time where I felt helpless and hopeless and ignored and abandoned, not because people didn't care, because they were terrified. But I look back and I am so grateful for all the lessons that I learned, for all the lessons of letting go of control, for understanding and accepting, not necessarily liking, but accepting that everyone has their own journey, and it is not our job to control it, especially with our children. Our job is to guide and step aside and be the very best example that we can be. And so I am so grateful for everything that I learned in that hard, challenging time. I am so grateful that our son Tyler is doing better. Today he lives in Kelowna, British Columbia, and there are still struggles. There are still struggles. And in 2019, he was a pallbearer at his friend Drew's funeral, who made a fatal mistake at a party. And in that dark time, when we all felt so brokenhearted, we couldn't see past our grief. It was so challenging. And then I reminded myself, and we talk about how grateful we are that Drew was in our lives. And he had a tattoo that says, "Follow the adventure." And we put this everywhere on bumper stickers, and kids went to different countries and they posted "Follow the adventure" wherever they were. And Drew, I am so grateful to, because he reminds me that we are all here for our journey, and however long that may be, and that I can be grateful for his life and grieve at the same time. And I am grateful for the lessons that he taught my son, Tyler. And you see, no matter what we have been through, no matter what we are going through, there is always room for gratitude. Sometimes it's as trivial, or so it seems, as saying, as I said, through tears, I am grateful for my shower. I am grateful for my cup of coffee. I'm grateful for my cute shirt. I am grateful that I have electricity for clean water, for having a neighbor who would walk my dog, for nature where I can go and feel reconnected and reminded that change is the only constant and that life is unpredictable. And I am grateful for so many things around. So every day I find those things to be grateful for. And if I don't have those things, I make them. Because here's the other little secret, right? When we just show up for other people, they are so grateful for us. And we in turn feel gratitude, right? Wow, I'm so glad that I went to speak to Mr. Jones down the road because he was lonely and he was sad and I spoke to him and now he feels better. And so do I. I'm so grateful that I took the time to just show up for Mr. Jones. I'm grateful for what he gave back to me. So you see, gratitude, it's like the infinity sign. It just give gratitude and more things to be grateful for will come into your life. Love the people around you. Be grateful. Well, you know, the ones you're grateful for. But choose to focus on the things to be grateful for. Choose to see the goodness in this world, no matter what we're going through. Live and practice gratitude like Patch does. Make it one of your most huge and most important medicines because it is free and you can write it down and remind yourself and choose to live in gratitude, regardless of grief, regardless of whatever else is going on in your life. So thank you for spending this time with me. I am grateful. I am so grateful for Win-Win Women, where we care, connect, and collaborate with women around the world with this beautiful, caring community. And I am grateful to have been able to create loveyourlifetodeath.com, where you can come and connect any time and follow us and receive free tips, connect with us anytime. And there you'll find, of course, my book, Love Your Life to Death, my program, Get Ready for Grief, which is something that helps you to create that foundation so that you can live fully now and be more empowered and resilient when grief arrives. And of course, I encourage everyone, your hashtag IJustShowedUp bracelet, which will remind you to just show up for yourself first. Just show up for yourself first in gratitude, right? Just show up for yourself first and allow grief and joy. And of course, when you don't know what to do and you don't know what to say, it's awkward, it's uncomfortable, and you can't fix it, just show up. And that's what the bracelet will remind you to do. So we have created this community. This is a community of ongoing learning and connecting. And of course, I have so many wonderful stories. People who have just shown up, people who have shared from their hearts, who have been willing to be vulnerable, to say, yes, this happened to me. And I encourage you on my real life talks, watch some of the stories, because talk about people who have been through tragedies and have learned to be grateful in their lives. They're even grateful for the tragedies they've experienced because it taught them how to love life and live to the fullest. Truly extraordinary. So thank you again. And I will share my call to action as always. If you want to be able to just show up for others, if you want to be able to just show up for yourself in gratitude, and no matter what else is going on in your life, my call to action, plan your life, plan your death, and then just love your life to death. And always bring your own tampering to the party. Thank you, everyone. Have a grateful day. Bye for now.